Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for High Velocity Radio.
Welcome to Coach the Coach, helping business coaches deliver more impact in less time. Broadcasting live on the High Velocity Radio Show and the Business Radio X network. If you're a business coach and want to help more people make more money and own your backyard, go to brxteam.com. Lee, this is going to be a fantastic show. Please join me in welcoming to the broadcast CEO with Relaunch Life, Miss Hilary DeCesare. How are ya?
I am doing terrific. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Well, Hilary, before we get too far into things, do you mind sharing a little bit about Relaunch Life? How are you serving folks?
I would love to. Relaunch Life was created primarily when I've been coaching for over 15 years, CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs, and it was always around business. It was always around like, let's get a strategy, let's get this out to the people that you're, looking to sell to give value to. But then all of a sudden there was a disconnect because we would come up with fantastic strategies and then they would fall short. They wouldn't do everything that they had committed to doing. And what I soon realized was that the missing piece was their personal life was getting in the way of their business life. And so I really had a moment of how can I impact these executives even more by bringing in a concept, which is the Relaunch Method, which allows them to simultaneously with advancing their business career, also advance their life, but do it together. And then all of a sudden they have, it's a double win because they've got life, they've got love coming in, and their business starts to take off tenfold.
Now, a lot of people talk about work-life balance, and this sounds like you're touching around some of that. Is it something that is possible to keep all of those balls in the air or all those plates spinning simultaneously? Can you have the successful business, the successful family life, the successful love life, the successful spiritual life, health life? Can you keep all of those plates spinning?
Well, first off, let's talk about this concept of, the balance of life. I don't believe in it. I don't at all. I believe in harmony of life. The idea that if you can, there's always going to be parts of your life that aren't going exactly as you wish it would, right? For some of us, it might be you've had a divorce in your family. You might be still single and looking for love. You might have just lost a big contract with a company, or you've lost, your largest coaching client or something. What I refer to as relaunches are just that, relaunching different times of your life when things are starting to happen to you. And the key is how do you handle those relaunches? What do you do? Do you build up walls and then jump over those walls and then create another wall? Or do you break the wall down so that it doesn't continue to cause you problems in the future? So this harmony, this, people say, love, gosh, I don't have time for that. Or, yeah, love will come. Well, if you don't take love seriously, you actually won't get as much out of your life as you can. And so that's why I think I'm on a platform right now saying, put love first. And guess what? Then business and other areas of your life will absolutely take off.
So now in the relaunch, is it a strategy? It's a platform? What do you refer to it as?
It's actually the Relaunch Method. And there's many different methods. There's the Relaunch Method of, 10xing your business. There's the Relaunch Method of finding love over 40. There's the Relaunch Method of, blowing out your life in all the areas you want. But the basic principle behind it is you are the product of you. And I've grown up in the Silicon Valley. I've coached worldwide. I've been in corporations. I've launched my own businesses. And what I have found is that there are entrepreneurs out there that have this great idea of the lean startup, of how to create a really solid company and get your product out to market. And I've changed that up. And instead of thinking about the product as a business product, I say, think of yourself as the product of you. You are the CEO. You're the entrepreneur of you. And if there's a point of failure within you, then your business, your product will ultimately not be at the level you want it to be. So we've created a methodology with all lean startup business principles.
So now part of the lean startup is to iterate. So do you start with a basic premise and just keep iterating around it until you find an MVP that you're happy with, that you go forth with?
You are speaking the language of this love in this course. Yes, we start with discovery, which all entrepreneurs know that the product have to go back, look at what are you trying to create? What is your big idea? What do you want to have happen? What's your positioning? How do you set yourself up for that ultimate success that you want in all areas of your life? We discuss rebranding, marketing, redefine the real you. We have something called Project Get Real, and that's identifying, you might have been one way throughout your life to this date, but how do you want to be in that second half of your life? And then we launch you, and we launch the best product of you to go out there and really, just be able to dominate in all areas of your life. And this transformation is something that it's unheard of. I mean, coaches have always taken the approach of let's put your business, let's only talk about business, and, let's focus on those strategies. But this is so much bigger. This has such a bigger impact in your success, in your happiness, in your state of being, that this is this is truly the secret of true success, not in business, but in life, which includes what you do in your business.
Now, the phrase you're choosing to use is relaunch. Does this work better for people who have some scar tissue, that have been around the block a little bit, that have kind of a handle or what they think is their purpose and things like that, as opposed to a more unformed person that's maybe a teenager or in college?
I love that. I love the idea of the scar tissue. And for those that have gone anywhere, we believe that, your first relaunch actually occurs when you're going off to college. And everybody has scar tissue in one way or another. We've all been hurt. We've all been broken up. We've all had problems in our work life, in our life, family. Everybody has problems. But here's the thing, where relaunch really comes into play is this idea that you can relaunch at any age, at any stage of life. And where we have this amazing, where we just resonate with our target audience is around the midlife. And I laugh because men, we in our society allow them to have their midlife crises. For women, we don't. And what happens with women especially is that they say, well, wait a second, I don't have time for a midlife crisis. I'll put that on my list. I'll get back to that later. And they just keep building up the walls. So for them, it's really easy to say, hey, have a relaunch instead of a midlife crisis. But for men in today's world, it's so difficult for them because their expectations of they have to do this, they have to, provide, they have to be this certain type. Now there's this EQ that's coming into play, emotional intelligence, and they also have to be emotionally loving and romantic and all these different things. And the challenge for them is that they've climbed over so many walls in the past that they hit that point where they don't know what to do. And how many of us, men, men, women, all of a sudden feel like we're at a point where we're totally stuck. We're totally like, just paralyzed by how is this all there is to it in life? Maybe you've had great success in business. Maybe you don't feel like you've accomplished enough in business yet. Whatever it is, if you can really go through a program like the Relaunch Method, it's life-changing. And that's why we say the second half of life can be even better than the first.
Now, how are you delivering this? Is it through one-on-one coaching? Is it through group coaching? Is it through like kind of a community of relaunchers that are all in it together, that they're all helping each other? How does somebody take part in this?
So we actually have 3 different ways to do this. There is the ability to actually take it via a course, a digital program that has weekly group calls, because I do think power is in groups of people coming together and supporting. And these are high-level people. These are people that understand what you're going through because they're going through it. And then there's also private coaching that I do as well. And then there's mastermind groups of people that are trying to, whether it's launching a new company, whether it's trying to find love after 40, different groups. So we really put you together with whatever relaunch is occurring in your life right now.
Now, are there any kind of symptoms of somebody who might need a relaunch? Are there kind of some signs that it might be appropriate to pursue this?
Yes, there's definitely the secret to, yes, you need to relaunch is if all of a sudden you're feeling that stuck, like, is this really all there is? And at that point, that's when you realize, hey, I want more. I might have, the big house, I might have the car, I might be going on vacations, or I don't have what I think I should have. It's that at that point that a relaunch is a must, because you realize at that point, hey, I want more. I want more out of what I currently have.
Now, when the person is having that kind of epiphany moment, they go to the website, and then is there a way to kind of get a taste of this before they fully commit, or how does the onboarding work?
Yeah, so we have on Facebook, it's Relaunch Love is the actual site. And then what I always suggest is that people that are interested, DM me, direct message, and I love to just have quick phone calls to assess, where are you? Like what really can happen? How can we make a quick shift happen right now? So many people are sabotaging themselves, and they're putting so many excuses, so many limiting beliefs in front of them that they're not actually even able to see what to do with that next initial step. And even just with a quick call that we can have, it's like, boom, that one quick step, all of a sudden it just, sends them into, gosh, I finally get it. I now understand. And there's so much going on these days with transformation and, changing and meditation. And here's the thing, all these habits that we have gotten ourselves into, all the things that we've said and all the things, the stories that we're telling, there's such a great opportunity to switch and change the person that you're wanting to be. But sometimes you need that coach. You need that person. You might even be coaching other people and you're doing a great job, but to coach yourself is a different story.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Coach the Coach, helping business coaches deliver more impact in less time. If you're a business coach and want to help more people make more money and own your backyard, go to brxteam.com. Hilary Stone Payton here with Business Radio X. This is my favorite part of the show. Not that it's all not fantastic, but I get to talk about me for just a minute because, I need the help. So I'm not out in the marketplace like you and many of the other coaches that we visited with during this series, but I do find myself wearing that hat. I'm a coach to our studio partners who run Business Radio X studios across the country. And as we say down where I am, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, I'll be coaching a lot more of these folks. And I'm inspired and intrigued by some of what you're saying about expanding the conversation and going deeper and broader to what I would consider, in some cases, more intimate aspects of what do you call them? Coachee clients' lives. So it's going to sound maybe like a little bit like a House of Mirrors type question, but here's my question. If I can figure out how to frame it up, I had what I believe to be, at the risk of sounding a little bit immodest, just as recently as this morning, a great coaching call. Me being the coach, listening, throwing out some pretty good sort of questions for my internal client to help them sort of navigate their own path toward some good strategies for what they're trying to do in terms of leveraging our platform to help people, in our business. And when I hear you talk, wow, how great would it have been if beyond that, I could have somehow in every one of these calls, but even in today's, if I could have dived a little bit deeper and begun to hit on some of these type of topics that you're describing. And that's where I come up thinking, yeah, that would be great. And yeah, maybe Hilary could even, share with me a handful of penetrating questions. But this strikes me as a skill set, getting people to trust you to that degree, and then being able to command and execute on a conversation like that sounds to me like ninja level coaching that's well beyond what I did at 8:30 this morning. So that's an awfully long question, but I don't know. Are you gonna certify people to do this? Is there somewhere we can go and learn as coaches to be more like this in our own coaching? Anyway, any counsel or advice you might have to offer on that front would be greatly appreciated and most welcome.
I am so glad you just brought this up, because as I describe the program and for the people that I coach, there is a ninja sense to it. There is something that we all need to understand about human behavior, about beliefs, about habits, about the subconscious brain. And where I believe the Relaunch Method is so different and unique is that it bases science evidence with business skills in allowing this art of love. And I do have groups of coaches that I take through, and it takes your coaching to the next level, because you're then working on who the person's identity is, how they are showing up, who they are being in meetings, in front of their employees, in front of investors. And so when I say I've got a course, I've got this methodology, it is an 8-week course to get you to the point where you're comfortable with understanding as a coach how to ask these type of questions, why habits are formed, and why 95% of habits that people do, bad habits, procrastination, are actually a form. They're habits that need to be broken. And people say, oh, just change that bad habit. Well, if they're in the subconscious, they can't be changed. You have to go in there, and there's ways to do that. And that's where I help you become not just a good coach, but that 10X coach, that coach that is really the one that, everybody wants to go to, because, hey, they're dealing with the mind, they're dealing with the business, they're dealing with love. Oh my God, it's the whole package. And so please, reach out, Relaunch Love, Facebook. Again, I have these mastermind groups. I put together coaches that actually work in smaller pods of groups, 10 go through the program together, so that they can actually help each other. And you learn from listening and from me coaching one coach, and then I bring in you to coach somebody else, so that, Stone, as you're talking to this client this morning, you're like, hey, I'm doing a good job. Let's not have good job. Let's have great job. Let's have full transformation for those clients.
Well, I'm glad I asked. I suspected as much. It makes all the sense in the world to me that you would have begun to build this out, and you're providing that for other coaches. So keep up the good work. Thank you for that. And I'm going to continue to try to learn and explore this deeper level of coaching. Thank you for that.
And Hilary,
Thank you.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about your backstory? How did you kind of make the transition from Silicon Valley to this endeavor?
Well, I'll tell you what happened was I have been in the Silicon Valley. I worked at Oracle for 10 years, heavy corporate. And then the president went over to Kleiner Perkins and invited me to come and actually help coach all of their portfolio CEOs and executives. I did it. I loved it. I started coaching from that point on, created a company. And then I caught the bug of entrepreneurship, helping all these entrepreneurs. I'm like, I want to do this. So I created company after company, and I continued to coach. And I have always been fascinated with the subconscious, with the brain. I have a degree in psychology, and I have been working very closely with the masters, the leaders in the space. And I decided that how can I change it up in the coaching world? How can I really deliver the best of the best so that people don't have just that one little step forward? They truly go lightning fast into it. And so I first used myself. I then started to use it on all of my coaching clients, and I started to see how incredible the results were. And I thought, how can I now position this where it's not, as many of you know, sometimes the one-on-one, I can't deliver it as massively as I want to get this out. I believe that everybody has this in them. They have the ability to be the product of themselves, this, amazing product. But you can't follow traditional steps. This is new. This is, you talk about being on the cutting edge of where coaching is going. That's what this is.
Now, for you, after having done it for so long, can you share maybe a rewarding or an impactful story where you were able to help somebody transform and become their best self? Obviously, don't name
Absolutely.
names, but just the backstory.
Yeah, I won't. How they really came out. So I was working with a gentleman, and we had been coaching, and things had been moving, at a fairly, firm clip, but it just, something kept happening where we would go forward and then it would somehow take, a couple steps back. And it happened that this gentleman was about to launch into Europe, and I couldn't get him to act upon a couple main strategic moves. And then I stopped and I said, can we take a step back? Let me ask you about your personal life and what's going on there. Well, it ended up that his wife had said, if you continue to travel the way you are, I want a divorce. I'm tired of raising the kids, being a single mom. Well, that right there, it was like an aha moment, because he then, in sharing this personal side, he couldn't continue to be his best self because he had this guilt. He had this, he was stuck trying to, decide between business and between personal life. And that's when we crafted a new set of strategy for him, a new series that he could do. He embraced it. And all of a sudden he was able to go back to his wife. He explained what he was trying to do. He did it in a different way because, again, there's something that we dive deep in with the program, and it's gender intelligence. And it's knowing how to actually work with the opposite sex and how to leverage what you really want, but in a way that they're going to buy off on it, the way that they're going to embrace it, the way they're going to support you. And so by doing this, by knowing that this is what was stopping, we then put in place a plan that allowed him to be home 3 weeks and only gone 1 week. And lo and behold, his marriage began to thrive. His kids' relationship, who he was estranged with, his son, all of a sudden that started to take off. And the company ended up just blowing up. He ended up selling it. This was even something that we had talked about, but he was so concerned about that because he was like, if I have to sell it then am I going to have to travel everywhere to, get the sale going? And we sold it a year later.
Now, do you find that sometimes there is that ancillary thing that maybe is not obvious, but when you dig a little deeper, you find that that was kind of the crux of what was causing him to self-sabotage, that it could be something in your personal life, or it could be this kind of not...
Absolutely. There are specific questions that you can ask that you can find out what the limiting belief is. And as soon as you start listening for the concerns that they're having around the business or the pushbacks, all of a sudden you have to get to what is the real root that is causing them to act that way, causing them to say that. And by going and looking at their career, by identifying like, okay, tell us about, what have been your 5 most successful things in your career? What are the 5 things that are really holding you back? And we really dig into that. All of a sudden you can see that what happens with sabotage, what happens with limiting beliefs is they continue to keep popping up over and over and over again. And when you identify these and when you hit them head on, you can actually blow up a limiting belief. People always think, oh, it's going to take forever. Therapists, you can go to a therapist for a year. And then all of a sudden you really identify in talking with the limiting belief and understanding where it came, that you can look fear in the eye and you can say, you know what, at this point, you're releasing it because it's not something that is helping you. But there's steps to being able to release it in such a way that it's like, okay, it's not, I always love the comment, and I'll leave it at this. I love the comment. What is the worst thing that can happen in this situation? What's the absolute worst? And then asking 2 more levels of why. And then once you figure out that root of the why, then you look at it and say, what will happen to you and your business and your life if this does take place? Okay, now you've got the worst, and now you can go from there.
So when they kind of sit with that and they live with that worst case scenario, they realize, well, that's not anything, it's not as scary as it is in my head. Like you've kind of made it more real, and then they realize that they can kind of accept it and move on. It's not the end of the world.
Exactly. And you come up with a strategy to say, okay, here, I'm a big believer, and I've studied under a professor at Stanford with tiny habits. And there's always this ability to you're never stuck. All you have to do is take that one step, and it doesn't have to be a big step. It can be the smallest of steps. But as soon as you have any momentum, any movement, you're no longer stuck.
It was that Professor BJ Fogg? Is that his name?
It was, yes, BJ Fogg. Absolutely fabulous. And he has a program that everybody who's listening can go out and sign up for.
Right, it's free, right?
And what I've done, and it's free, what I've done is I've actually incorporated it into this concept around tiny habits, around becoming the product of you.
Good stuff. Yeah, it was interesting reading his stuff, and he's definitely doing some amazing things. And anybody can, like you said, sign up and take. I guess it's a virtual habit. I don't know what he calls it.
It's a virtual. It's fantastic, and I strongly suggest, because the first thing that everybody needs to know is that we all feel stuck. We all have these things that happen in our life that you need to accept and say, okay, this has happened. And hey, I'm somebody that I've been through the hardest of hardships. My mom 6 months ago was diagnosed with colon cancer that had metastasized to her liver, stage 4, doom and gloom, everything. And I leaned deep into the Relaunch Method and leaned into, all right, what is my responsibility here? What can I do to help her? And how can I advance myself with this? because this is a huge relaunch for me that I needed to do at that moment. And I started to work with her and relaunched her during what is truly the biggest relaunch of her life. And so once you learn the relaunch method, you can actually use it in any area of your life.
And it's not only identifying everything that you can do, it's also identifying what you can't do, right?
You know what? What it is identity. Who do you want to be? And a lot of times we can sit here and say, well, I have these problems with money. I have these, limiting beliefs around money. I grew up with money doesn't grow on trees. You got to work hard to make that money. And what happens is these limiting beliefs are actually what is holding you back. And whose beliefs are those? Whose stories are those? What usually ends up happening is that those stories were not crafted by you. They were crafted by your parents, by your teachers. And so you're right. It's the positives and the negatives. And what we allow you to do with the relaunch method is get to the point of, that's a story I'm telling myself, and it's a positive story for me, or if it's a negative story, let's kick that story and blow that thing up.
Good stuff. Well, thank you so much, Hilary, for sharing your story today.
Thank you again so much for having me on your show.
If somebody wanted to learn more and get involved and relaunch, the website again?
You would go to Facebook is probably the best place, because then you can message me directly, but it's Relaunch Love, and it's on Facebook. We have a group there, and then just go ahead and reach out to me. And if you're interested in getting involved in the next program that's coming out with coaches and relaunching the coaches so that they can relaunch their clients, I'll tell you all about it.
Good stuff. Well, thank you so much again for sharing your story. And that's on Facebook. Just go to Relaunch Love. You'll find Hilary, and you connect with her, and amazing things are going to happen. This is Lee Cantor.
Thanks again so much.
Oh, sure. This is Lee Cantor for Stone Payton. We will see you all next time on Coach the Coach Radio.